dignitaries and participants who have joined the webinar. On the occasion of World Health Day, the Department of Community Medicine, St. G.S. Medical College and KEM Hospital has organized this online program. I am Dr. Chinu Sara Varghese, Resident of Community Medicine Department, and I feel honored to be your host for today. I'd also like to thank all my faculty and my colleagues who have been working for the past few days for this program. So this year's World Health Day theme is building a fairer, healthier world for everyone, everywhere. All over the world, some groups struggle to make ends meet with poor housing conditions, little or no access to safe environments, clean water, air, food security, and health services. This leads to unnecessary suffering and harms our societies and economies. Now, this gap has become even more stark with the COVID-19 pandemic. We all know how important our environment is in order to lead healthy and productive lives. Day by day, we are seeing the ill effects of climate change and environmental degradation. To address these issues of environmental health and their implications for the future, we have with us today eminent personalities who have contributed greatly to the field of environmental science, Dr. Rakesh Kumar and Dr. Amita Athavale. Dr. Rakesh Kumar is the director of CSIR, National Environmental Engineering Research Institute, NEERI, Nagpur, and Dr. Amita Athavale is the professor and head of the Department of Chest Medicine, Environmental Pollution and Research Center, EPRC, St. G.S. Medical College. They will be enlightening us on the current issues of climate change, health risks, environmental health, and future direction. Before we commence this session, I'd like to invite my colleague, Nevan Alaude, to pay obeisance to Mother Earth by an invocation.
पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। अन्तरिक्षं शान्तिः पृथिवी शान्तिरापः शान्तिरोषधय शान्तिः वनस्पतयः शान्तिः विश्वदेवः शान्तिः ब्रह्मा शान्तिः सर्वः शान्तिः शान्तिरेव शान्तिः सामा शान्तिरेव।
Thank you, Dr. Neha. Our HOD sir, Dr. Gajanan Velal, has always been supportive of us in conducting all the programs and activities in our department. I am taking this opportunity to welcome Velal sir, and I'd like to request you, sir, to welcome the dignitaries and participants and to introduce us to this year's World Health Day theme.
Respected Dean Sir, Dr. Deshmukh, who may join at any point of time, our Academic Dean, Dr. Milind Natkar Sir, distinguished speakers for today's event, Dr. Rakesh Kumar, who is the Director, NEERI Nagpur, and Dr. Amita Athavale, Madam, Professor and Head, Department of Chest Medicine and Environmental Pollution Research Centers at GS Medical College and KEM Hospital. My colleagues, Dr. Kamakshi Bate, Dr. Amit Mondwe, and other colleagues from the department, dear students, and all those who have joined online for this particular program. On behalf of Department of Community Medicine, St. G.S. Medical College, a warm welcome to all of you for at this event of observance of World Health Day 2021. All of you know that every year since 1950 onwards, 7th April is observed, celebrated as World Health Day to commemorate the existence, to commemorate the um, existence of World Health Organization since the year 1948. Our department also keeps with the tradition of observance of World Health Day, and every year we organize various events, activities in line with the theme given by World Health Organization on the occasion of World Health Day. This year, the WHO has announced a global theme mainly to sensitize and prioritize and focus on a very important issue of building a good primary health care, universal health coverage, and strengthening the systems, building healthier, building a fairer and healthier world for everyone every year. That's the theme of this year 2021 given by World Health Organization. Now this particular theme sounds very apt at the present situation of COVID-19, um, justifying what really needs to be done for long-term benefits to develop the resilience to face the large-scale pandemics like COVID-19 and disasters, what we are going through right now at this point of time. Now, we, the Faculty of Community Medicine, are teaching, training, and advocating what we call it as over a period of time comprehensive healthcare, basic health services, then primary healthcare, now universal health coverage, etc. for last more than 40 years. Now, now all these terminologies ultimately are emphasizing on inequality, acceptability, adaptability, availability, affordability of health services to each and every individual wherever he requires it and whatever place he is in. So everything for everybody everywhere. However, it still appears to be a distant dream, even though there are some accomplishments on each front in last few decades. Now, present COVID-19 pandemic reveals clearly that some people are able to live healthier lives and have better access to health services than others entirely due to the conditions in which they live, in which they are born, they live, they work, and they age. Big purchasing capacity, poor housing and environmental sanitation conditions, and difficulties in accessibility to well-functioning health services and other social determinants of health are still the major problems and issues to the large segment of population in the country. This is really unfair and unjustifiable, as we believe that everyone has the right to conducive living and working conditions. Of COVID-19, we know that COVID-19 has hit all countries hard, but its impact is very harsh, especially on the communities which are already vulnerable and who are more exposed to the disease, less likely to have access to quality health services, and more likely to experience the adverse events or consequences as a result of measures undertaken for COVID containment from time to time. We know what is known as epidemiological trial, agent, host, and environmental factors. Now, harmful interaction between these factors is known to initiate, is responsible rather to initiate, precipitate, and progress the various diseases and health issues. Coronavirus is also a part of our biological environment. Besides that, there are many other environmental problems known to influence the health of the people. WHO theme, today's WHO theme, that building fairer and healthier world also focuses on detrimental environmental issues and identifies the unfair conditions to which people are exposed, and highlight the scope to address these issues by joining the hands together. We must remember that nobody is safe unless everybody is safe around us. So our today's distinguished speakers for this webinar, Dr. Amita Athawale madam and Dr. Rakesh Kumar sir from NIRI will be speaking on the climate change and health and environmental health, the future directions respectively. I am sure that on the occasion of this World Health Day, we are going to get enlightened on the environmental dimension of health. So let's work together for the benefit of all. And let me thanks once again our Dean, Academic Dean, our speakers, and all the delegates who are present online. Thank you once again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good morning to all of you. And first of all, I will like to even welcome Dr. Rakesh Kumar and Dr. Amita Athawale, who was the speakers for today's program. St. GS Medical College and KM Hospital has always been committed to provide health in all the dimensions. In spite of being a tertiary care hospital, we also deliver primary care like screening programs, health education, adult immunization, awareness campaign, etc. A lot of field work has been done in diseases like malaria and even in now COVID-19 pandemic. The role of this department is stupendous and it's really working hard in this COVID-19 pandemic. The Department of Community Medicine at our institute has been involved in delivery of primary care at their urban and rural centers as well. They always have been forerunners in observing days of public health importance, and the entire motivation for all these programs is led by their HOD Dr. Vellal sir. This World Health Day, we are committed to build fairer and healthier world everywhere. As Dr. Vellal said, you are safe only if your neighbor is safe, because in COVID now we have realized how much importance is there that your neighborhood also is safe. This can't happen without a clean environment. Due to impending environment changes and its effect on the health, the number of deaths are increasing. Of course, climate change is acknowledged as major health risk multiplier, and with the global warming and the change in weather, the pattern of diseases is ever changing and newer diseases are coming to the fore, which we have to tackle in future. Okay, probably we don't have answers to them as of now, and we have to be ready to face them as and when they strike. The degradation of ecosystem also entails major health related consequences. These include non-communicable as well as communicable diseases, zoonotic diseases, etc. Currently, we are facing COVID-19 pandemic, and I think everyone is affected around us, and we are doing our best possible care that we can give to the community at primary level and at tertiary level both. At KM Hospital, you are aware that we have got at least currently functioning 90 ICU bed facilities and also about 300 oxygenated beds, and we are catering to that also. This is an effort from the institute to spread awareness about environment amongst medical students, public health researchers, relevant stakeholders and citizens at various fora in the form of lectures, seminars and CMEs that we conduct from time to time. I wish every success for today's program, and I thank Dr. Vellal for inviting me for addressing this particular meet. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Natkar sir, for taking your time off and joining the session today. Now we will proceed with the scientific session. May I introduce our first speaker, Dr. Rakesh Kumar, Director of CSIR, NIRI, Nagpur. He completed MSc and MTech from IIT Bombay with merit. He further pursued work on developing technologies for automobile pollution control, which led to PhD in environmental engineering. He has over 3 decades of experience as a scientist in CSIR NIRI and is currently its director. He has had affiliations with various national and international institutions like IIT Bombay and Drexel University, Philadelphia, USA. His experience includes a wide range in environmental science and engineering field like air pollution control and management, climate change, waste and wastewater management. He has received several honors and awards. It is my privilege to ask you to join me in welcoming Dr. Rakesh Kumar. We will be talking about future direction, environmental health.
Thank you. I am a person who comes from a very different background compared to all of you who are sitting here. Thank you, Dr. Villal and all the dignitaries who have agreed to invite me and listen to me. We are an institution where can you all hear me well?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
So just wanted to give you a brief background of the place that where we work. Actually, it started way back in 1958 in Mumbai, and later on, Mumbai being not a place where you have a lot of areas, it was shifted to Nagpur, and it has 5 regional centers across India in different metros. Primarily, the NIRI was actually known as Central Public Health Engineering Research Institute when it started. And on those days, the primary aim of civil engineering curriculum was also to look at public health as one of the major focus, as water and sanitation. So I didn't want to give a lot of information and related issues to all of you who are very literate in this domain. But I just wanted to share with you where are the gaps and challenges that we face right now when we deal with the current pandemic or anything else that we are talking about. The next topic, which Dr. Amita Athawale is going to talk about, climate change and health, is also equally linked with the topic that we are talking about. So as we go ahead, we have seen some of these responses of Bhopal, and even today you will be surprised to know that some of the output in terms of chemicals which came out is still there in the soil, and institute like ours, the NIRI and Indian Institute of Toxicological Research, we have been monitoring once in a while to find out what happens. In recent times, our team of NIRI had gone and understood and tried to figure out how the toxic gas leak happened in Vizag. Why it is, these are of course episodic, that it happened on a particular day, but on a overall period, over a long period, if you see that if small amounts keep coming out and it's there in atmosphere, they have a long-term impact. And this is where we wanted to tell you that as an institution like NIRI, but there are many institutions in the country who can possibly do something about prevention of it, and if something happens, how do we take care of it. Somehow, despite having many institutions, we are unable to react as fast as we should, and that's the reason why we have repeated incidents of this kind which happens. So when we talk about health of an individual, of course we talk about community health, and I'm glad that your Department of Community Health has taken this initiative and talking about it. We have to do it all together. It cannot be only one part of it working and the other part not working. We cannot be healthy in this. But when we look at environmental health, environment and health, there are people who are talking about how it connects to our health in terms of healthy air, good quality of water, and the food that we take. And of course, there are other issues which are how the trees are and biodiversities are and flora fauna around us. That is also part of health, because if they suffer, there is an indication that they could also be creating trouble for us. So when we look at other exposure, as I said, air, water, soil and food of course are very important. But in between, when we have natural and technological disaster, that is another time when we have issues. In environment, it persists for a longer period. Climate change, occupational hazard, and these days the built environment, where we have very dense population living in a very small area and density going as high as 5,000 people in 1 acre land, which was not the case earlier. We have some numbers which I would say, but it is not important from that angle. But it actually starts saying that these numbers have started appearing, and they are very, very high numbers. So when we talk about air pollution is leading to so many million deaths in India every year, and these are primarily related to combustion-related particulate matter. So India, being a dusty country, is a tropical country. India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, to some extent in Nepal as well. These are tropical countries, so we will have natural dust. But in the dust, when we have toxic components, those toxic components are the ones which are leading to death and high morbidity as well. Similarly, we have very high morbidity and mortality due to water pollution, and obviously these are linked to all that health related issue. We have additional health related issue because of environment is not being clean. When we look at health effects, you all know better. It starts with minor ones like headache, fatigue, respiratory related issues, cardiovascular. But now slowly we know that these are not limited to only primary issues of respiratory health, coughing and having headache. But now we can get cancer, we can get skin related issues, we can have serious cardiovascular issues as we go ahead. So there is a discipline which is becoming more and more, I would say, powerful as we go ahead. We call it health risk assessment, and this we are trying to understand that how certain component, whether it is any chemicals or anything that we do in normal life, impacting. So in this, in health risk assessment, the research domain is looking at epidemiology, clinical studies, animal studies, structural activity relationship, and modeling. That's where mathematical modeling is done, so that we can predict something which will happen in future, or which can happen to a certain group of people, and if it happens, what we need to do. Once we do that, then we do risk assessment, where we start doing planning. We understand from where the hazard is coming, so we identify dose assessment, response assessment, and then even if the numbers are high, whether our exposure is very high. That is something which is very important. And after this, we start getting into actually taking decision, where we try to ban something, or we do some more research, we start making new standards, and regulations start becoming more and more. All of you who are sitting in Mumbai know it very well that Chembur area, which was known as gas chamber in 80s, 70s and 80s, is much more cleaner. Many of you will not believe that is cleaner now, but actually if you see the numbers of 80s, the level of pollution which was there in Chembur area was much higher. So based on the decision which was done on the basis of health parameters reported, the air pollution levels which were reported, people took decisions, and that's how this whole thing goes. But this domain of research in health risk is becoming more powerful, because we could predict something which will happen in future. So when we look at this exposure assessment related complexity, one is experimental, where we do something and we get data. So we do monitoring, we do environmental monitoring, we do personal monitoring, and do biomonitoring. Many of these things are being done by Dr. Athawale very well. The other domain which is becoming more powerful now is called computational. So we do far field exposure models, near field exposure models, and dynamic models. So if our group changes, if our area changes, if our topography changes, what will happen? So even if I have some base information from one place, can I apply it to some other locations? Can I use from all the data and information from Maharashtra to say West Bengal, and West Bengal to say Tamil Nadu, like that? And once we do that, the chances are that our prediction models will become strong enough to take certain decisions. So the kind of work that we do in CSN NEED in a small way, we primarily do work with industries where we look at occupational safety and health risk assessment. We also do R&D on biomarkers and related health risk assessment. And then after working with some professionals from outside, it's not inside domain, we work with them to look at mortality and morbidity. And each of these finally lead to some of the regulations which Government of India makes. So when we look at challenges of prediction in environmental exposure and health risk assessment, it is the biggest one in non-availability of health data. We don't get it the way we want it, or sometimes we don't even record what kind of health data which is needed. Of course, there are gaps in epidemiological studies, non-availability of baseline from where to where we are talking about, and non-availability of reference dose for exposure of pollutants. Many times when we want to do studies, our sister laboratory in Lucknow, which is Indian Institute of Toxicological Research, they are the ones who have some kind of reference dose which they manage. But if you talk about almost all type of chemicals what we encounter, those are not yet available. On the other side, this domain on the right hand side, integrated health prediction system, disaster response management has become better, but still a lot of work to be done. And training on environmental health, these three domains are still very poor in our country. So as I said, some of the challenges for environmental health has been to get scientific data on exposure effect and susceptibility, and each of these are linked to whole of chemical industries who produce it, or all of us who use it. So that's very important, and that's something which is actually missing. Some of the ones which are known to be emerging pollutants, like endocrine disruptors, kind of pollutants, nanomaterials, which have started becoming popular in many products. In personal care products, we have started getting chemicals which we didn't think that they were toxic or they would possibly have impacts, but they are being now reported. And other new kind of pesticide and pharmaceutical compounds. For each of these, we don't really have exposure standards. We at NEED host, we call it Convention Center, Stockholm Convention Center for persistent organic pollutant. So any work that gets done in terms of POPs, persistent organic pollutants are the ones which don't degrade easily. They remain in atmosphere for a very long time. So we maintain that data sets here. Continuing on, we have work relating to biological research, and individual susceptibility are something which is again not much which is being studied so much. A specific 3 or 4 labs or research institutions and medical institutions are doing it, but we need to do much more than what we're doing now. When we look at environmental health in terms of indicated prediction systems, as I said earlier, that we are able to do certain prediction for, we call it quantitative microbial risk assessment. That kind of work has started in India. A group of people from our institution, IIT Delhi and others are working in this. But if we start looking at other parameters such as pollutants airborne or water related and other infectious related diseases, we don't have too many of prediction systems. You must have seen it even from COVID point of view. Our prediction systems were of multiple kinds of different models, some of them being brought from China, some of them from US and some from Europe, knowing very well that some of those prediction models and the parameters were possibly not valid for us. And so this is where, if we have to do planning for next 5 years or 10 years, or if there is a disaster, if we have to do planning, we need to have these models in place. We need a lot of training, and since this topic is so transdisciplinary, we need to actually have specific training programs on informatics, genomics. Communicating all of these, which are complicated topics, is a challenge. Cultural competency, India being such a diverse country from one place to another, if we want to share the same information, it's not so easy. Community participation, look at all of this data and connect with global health, and convert everything here into policy and law, and how do we apply in terms of ethics. So the future direction of environmental health research is looking something like this: adopting a population level approach, developing system of accountability, strengthening government and public health infrastructure, building partnership. And I'm glad to mention here that with EPRC, KM Hospital, our institute has been almost working for more than 20 years, I think. That's the kind of partnership which should be there, much more than what we are doing. Communicating, enhancing the communication, and then use all of these evidences to make new policies and practices. So connecting to that, when we look at from this future area of action from institution, there is a need of doing population level adoption as well, which are connected with the health. So gender, cultures, income status, education, social support, employment, physical environment, biology, genetics, all of these need to connect each other, which is not the case even now completely. It has improved, but it can actually be much better than that. Strengthening the government and public health infrastructure, I don't need to say that, almost everyone knows, but it's very important the academia, government and community and all the people on the clinical side, they start talking to each other. That's when the partnership becomes powerful enough to deliver what is needed. Last couple of points, when we look at accountability in each of these cases, has to become much more robust compared to what we have now. And only when we start doing it, shared information and take shared actions, chances are that we'll have shared accountability. Right now, we are in the process of blaming each other and not taking accountability on this. When we say policy and practices, each of these will happen only when we have evidence-based public health, meaning there is a data, there is an information, someone understand this for a particular community and location, and then the policy decision is taken on the basis of the data. And I can just give an example as we go ahead, that people have been worried about exceeding the particulate matter standards in our country. Across almost 122 cities are actually struggling with regard to meeting the standard of particulate matter. But when we look at evidence-based data, we get very sporadic data from certain locations, that how many people are actually suffering, and they are suffering up to what extent, and is that something which is happening across the whole population. So only when we have that, we could possibly pressurize government. So currently government is pressurized enough to launch national clean air program, but we need clean air program, we need clean air water program, we need clean solid waste programs. So we need multiple of them to make it happen. To do all of these, of course, we need preventive measures. So I'll not go into details. I actually said that what I wanted to share with you. Thank you very much for inviting me, and I hope this discussion was helpful to people who participated. It has always been a good experience to talk to doctors. For me, it is always enriching experience. Thank you.
That was a very interesting session on environmental health challenges and future areas of evolution. As Sir mentioned, the health of the individual is almost inseparable from the environment in which he lives, and hence it's of utmost importance to ensure that our environment remains healthy. Thank you very much, Rajesh Sir, for the time of joining the session. Our next speaker is our very own Dr. Namita Adhule Madam, Professor and Head of the Department of Chest Medicine and Environmental Pollution and Research Center. She's been working especially in the field of environmental pollution and climate change, and has been instrumental in reaching out to the public and government, emphasizing the role of environment in health. She has appeared in numerous talk shows on BBC India. She also has several research publications to her credit. Her areas of interest include environmental pollution related to research, asthma, COPD, physician run days and blood cancer. We are indeed delighted to have you with us here today, ma'am. She'll be talking about health risks and climate change. Over to you, ma'am.
Vulnerabilities in the city as regards air pollution is concerned is something which we would talk on. CDC gives us many more details, but even our national websites have it very well done. And to put it about today's theme, the father of the nation said in simple words that we may have enough for everyone's need, but not really enough for everyone's greed. And if we follow that, maybe we will be able to sail through these climate crises. As it has been seen that it was all okay until maybe 2015, but after that, the velocity of climate change has been such that we have already crossed the safe zone. And that is how maybe even the common man has now started experiencing the effects of climate change. Why Department of Pulmonology is at the helm of affairs? It was Dr. Kamath who started way back in 80s the Environmental Pollution Research Center, as Dr. Rakesh Kumar showed, the Bhopal gas tragedy, where the department did some pioneering work. Okay, so essentially the lungs have probably the largest surface area, as much as the tennis court, that's about 140 square meters, and that is where the pollutants probably can settle in and cause their health effects. So how do we study that? We have been doing this by actually going to the community, and we realize that it is much different than when patient comes to the hospital. While we go to the community to understand the confounding factors, we need to carry out a census. Then to understand people's problems, we have the questionnaire filling done. After that, a clinical examination followed by the pulmonary function testing with a portable machine is done in the community. These are the equipments which are used, that is the personalized monitors, the portable pulmonary function endoparticulate monitor, and this is our pulmonary function laboratory which you are well versed with. So the city has undergone changes. We were a city of mills way back in early 80s, and now one would not be wrong in saying we are a city of malls. This is where the discrepancy probably lies. On one side we have the slum areas, and on other side we have the high rises. A very evident change which common man is facing is probably depicted by these small air conditioning units which are there in every building. That is where this 2-degree temperature change, which is said to be there as a core temperature change during climate change, affects all of us. And to go for it, what we have been realizing is people perceive these problems and then they come up for solutions. So the problem of solid waste has been there in all megacities, and this was studied in 2002. What it means to us for respiratory health. So in and around Gorai dumping ground, while we studied, there was asthma which was more than 7-fold. Asthma prevalence in city of Mumbai is about 3%, whereas around dumping ground way back in 2003, it was to the tune of 22% to 26%. While the report was sent out, it was in 2009, the scientific closure was undertaken, and then we went back again in 2012. This was the scientific closure where it is now translated into a green zone, and now when we did it again, the asthma percentage did come down, but did not come down as much as it is in the city's prevalence. It is still around 12%. And the reason being, while the air was studied, it was aspergillus spores. It was the fungal elements which were in the air which was probably causing these problems, apart from the odor and the methane related issues which have been there. Another time we faced an issue where in 2016 there was a huge fire at Devnar, and that's where, due to the smoke which followed a wind direction, and people around the localities were affected, and if you can appreciate the numbers, the respiratory morbidity increased much because of the smoke. Another issue which is air related, I'm sure all of us have been facing it, is while the constructions are happening in and around the city, and that is where maybe containing the construction work is going to be useful. Occupations, when they are in an area where they have all the legislations and where they're in an organized sector, they have the legislations laid down. But when it is an unorganized sector, just to give you an example, I have put this here. In Seaward Puleshwar, we were called for a complaint where it was actually Dr. Akesh Kumar who reminded us about our chemistry knowledge, and he sorted out the problem. This was when the residents in and around these buildings, which you see in the middle photograph, which were living on the 3rd to 5th floor, started complaining of burning of eyes, throat irritation, and asthma-like symptoms. While we went there and did the study, the air quality levels were all okay, as we don't measure the nascent chlorine which was generated due to the aqua regia. If you can see these spots, these are the actual photographs, and these people use aqua regia for gold polishing, and that was sending out nascent chlorine. Whenever we say that there is a problem due to a particular thing, we always have to have a control, and we had taken Kalba Devi area, which is just next to Buleshwar. If you can appreciate in the graph, the respiratory morbidity in blue is in for Buleshwar and in the orange is for Kalba Devi. That is where we were able to identify, but it took good amount of time for shifting these workers out of this area, they being an organized sector. So the biological contamination, which was earlier on more for waterborne disorders, now is also causing us trouble, which is in the form of an allergic response. As it is said, in Western countries, the pollen season has increased or has been longer. What is it for Mumbai city? If you appreciate in this particular photograph, the first picture, this is where we had one of our patients who was staying there, who came with a pneumonia. It was round pneumonia, and while we looked at the recurrent infections that he was getting, we actually went to the house and tried using this particular filter, which is a small steel tube which runs in air for 9 minutes, and it is our microbiology department gives these cultures on the wet strips, which we are able to really see. I have put this report here. He had the spore count of the bacteria, which was up to 10⁻⁹ on the ground floor, and on the mezzanine floor it was 10⁻⁴. So apart from treating his infection, what suggestion was given was to have him sleep not where the spore count was high, and that probably has prevented the next attacks. So these are the things, apart from the mosquito breeding, which is a well-known thing for the community medicine department as well as us. It is the mold remediation and the clean housing and the outer surroundings also have to be clean, is all very important. These small black spots, I'm sure when the cleaning is done, another word of caution is the cleaning solution themselves at times release the volatile organic compounds, and if the knowledge is not there regarding persons having reactive airway disease, these can be troublesome. A simple eating soda can be useful for cleaning the molds rather than the acids. Another thing is the mosquito coils also have been studied for as much smoke generating and leading to respiratory problems. All this was put in a nutshell, and this was published by our academic dean, Dr. Natkar, regarding the association of environmental factors which are associated. I'm sure you have been a witness in the pigeons which are breeding at every nook and corner in the city. They harbor a fungus which may be Cryptococcus or Aspergillus, and that can affect and induce an allergic response in the people who are exposed to it. This has been a picture which was discovered in one of our patients. It is the extrinsic allergic alveolitis, which is a type of interstitial lung disease. When goes chronic, can lead to oxygen dependency. Population density kept rising, and then most of us have witnessed the floods in 2005. What it has been in 2020, probably we need to build ourselves up about what we could do. Here again, apart from the known things with flooding, what was noticed was we had an increase in the number of asthma admissions, which were from typically low-lying areas. Again here, The issues were in the low-lying areas, the walls were wet, and the people living in the house, those were women and children, were more affected with hyperreactive airways in the coming in up to 2007 2008 we were getting these increased number of patients which were due to fungal ailments. The exposure to the contaminated flood water, I'm sure we all know what it can cause, but particularly leptospirosis is something which was never a common thing in pulmonary medicine until 2010 maybe. After the 2005 floods, we have been getting repeated patients with alveolar hemorrhage where it initially goes undetected. And here I would appeal that whether we could have a combined educational program or even involve the NGOs, that rather than only the feeding of the dogs, we could maybe undertake vaccination for them so that this reduces in future. So flood safety has been taught in our Disaster Management Institute, which has been a MCGM initiative. I'm sure you are aware about this particular institute, which is situated just a kilometer away from KEM, and that is where we need to brace ourselves up regarding how we are going to protect during floods. So a simple thing that one needs to teach our patients as well as people is you need to have a package of your requirements, maybe in home, at home, as well as maybe in your office, and you should be always ready with a package supply of food, medicine, and maybe a packaged water also. These were the things which have been seen by us, and what has been done with the policy decisions taken. This I must share with you. Wood burning as well as other biomass fuel use has been common in our country. It is also true for areas like Dharavi where they still use biomass, and women are the silent sufferers here. So the policy decisions regarding giving out the liquid petroleum gas for them definitely is going to be useful in future years. We have done the studies around Mumbai in two villages where we saw that the ladies there had a significant morbidity, and it takes almost more than a decade for the effects to go away and health to improve. Another area which was of concern was coal transport around Mumbai, and there too the policies are probably have been laid down in around a decade ago, and we should be seeing the effects of better environment soon. Lastly, the different things that we use which generate the chlorofluorocarbons and hydrofluorocarbons which destroy the ground level ozone having a concern, and the Montreal Protocol which was followed has a heartening news that the ozone layer in the troposphere has been getting better, and the hole in the ozone has been reducing in size. I would express my concern about one particular problem where in pulmonary medicine we yet do not have a solution. If it is a diagnosis of an interstitial lung disease, it is trouble. Asthma is controllable, COPD is to an extent treatable, not curable, but interstitial lung disease is neither. And this is where we need to work together, because in interstitial lung disease also now it has been seen that it is oxides of nitrogen probably and the different particulates which are probably the causative factors apart from the person's own genetics which will be making them susceptible. As Dr. Rakesh Kumar mentioned, we have the cultural, the social and the economical factors, and the teaching and training needs to be done accordingly. So the department has an initiative of asthma education, and the physiotherapy department contributes to it immensely in actually conducting pulmonary rehabilitation. We need to educate the patient considering their cultural, social and economical backgrounds. Apart from that, I must tell you what is the emotional aspect of these practices. If the person has a pet in the house, which might be a causative factor due to the animal dander causing asthma, you cannot tell them take away the pet. You need to train them for how to keep the pet clean by using the correct cleaning techniques, and how to have their upholstery as well as the beddings not having animal dander. So education in pulmonary medicine for the patient is of vital importance in prevention of the problem. Apart, when we talk about vulnerable groups, we talk about women and children, but the people who work in the city round the clock, 24/7, they are vulnerable to the pollutants which are there when the vehicular density is soaring high. And this is where we need to tell them regarding the risk adaptation and risk mitigation measures. I must tell you, when we talk about telling them about wearing masks, this was an important thing which we have not been able to solve still, and we need innovations for this. They cannot be wearing the masks and blowing the whistles. So the solutions regarding providing them with masks are really not okay when they are really on duty with heavy traffic conditions. And this is where we need the innovations to come in so that we can have better personal protection as well as prevention both done. The earlier pandemics have taught us a lot regarding the surveillance, and we have the integrated disease surveillance. Looking at that data, maybe we will be able to plan our future better. The COVID, as Vilas sir mentioned in the beginning, has really taught us a lot. Initially, it was the slum dwellers in the last year, and now this year we have more cases from the high rises. It speaks for itself, and it is probably truly a symptomic, which is a combination of the disease as well as other multiple factors like the effects of the pandemic on the population. So that is where we would protect ourselves, maybe that the universal immunization program which has been there for the children, we are going to be probably following that for the adults also now, beginning the COVID-19 vaccination drive, where your department has been doing a stupendous work. And apart from that, I would also make a mention regarding the animal vaccinations, because they are the reservoirs, and especially when we have the animal activists in place, maybe we could suggest these measures so that a number of diseases like leptospirosis could be minimized in future. Other innovations through a translational research which would get things from bench to bedside would be welcome, and this is one of the IITians initiative where he has talked about the nasal filters as well as cleaner home techniques. To get this all together, as the year-long theme is going to be to build a fairer world, I think the medical colleges and the municipal medical colleges in city of Mumbai have a great role to play, and I would also say that having the latest things at hand and also having a very good internet facility where you have the resources regarding the literature available, we probably can do our best and have an integrated approach where we have been asking for a National Environmental Lung Health Institute where we could talk from a common platform.
Thank you very much, Shanika, for the informative talk. I'm sure the audience is having a better idea about the environment conditions prevailing in our city, how it's affecting our health, what is being done to protect ourselves and the environment. Now, may I invite Dr. Archie Murray, Professor Emeritus, Department of Community Medicine, for delivering the word of thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. Now comes my duty to thank everyone, those who have made this webinar successfully possible. At the outset, I want to thank our chief guests, our dean, Dr. Hemant Deshmukh sir, and Dr. Nadkar, our academic team, for their constant support and guidance. I'm sure of gratitude to our learned speaker, Dr. Amita Agarwal Madam, Head of the Department of State Medicine and Environmental Protection Research Center of State GS Medical College in Kenya, for a wonderful presentation. I welcome Rakesh Kumar, sir, director meeting from his busy schedule, sir took some time to address our budding public health specialists, enlighten them about environmental health and future students from all medical colleges of Mumbai and Mumbai. Our interns also from Alamut have joined for that time. I thank our RMO, Dr. Chin, for being a wonderful woman of the seminar. That is, Basic of the seminar, I have called her woman of the seminar, Dr. Sania, Dr. Neha, for helping organizing the whole program. I thank all staff members of our department, community medicine, and especially Dr. Amit Mondre for coordinating the whole WHO program. Thank you all. I thank our artist Sachi Manik for the colorful invitation card. I thank our last but not the least, I want to thank RRC in charge, Dr. Geeta Natarajan, and a wonderful technical help from Bharat Patil. Thank you very much. Without them, this wouldn't have been possible. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much, Hashimani. I think each of us will take in some points with respect to environmental health. So let us together build a fairer and healthier world for everyone and everywhere. We're closing the session now.